Utilize red side counter pick. You talk about champion oceans, Faker is the man with the largest one in LCK history. We'll see whether that is going to be the linchpin that they can use, they can wield against Gen.G here, as Lucian, continuing to be banned away, has been banned every single game against Gumayusi.
Classic track as well here for this fourth game. Our old champion select musics here at the LCK, as Annie will continue to be banned.
Yeah.
Zeri, and I think these things are going to be constants here. The question becomes now, will Pays be allowed to play Varus, for example? That could really hurt your chances here as T1 having the lane control that you've been so reliant on, even in those losses for Gumayusi. And they will prefer banning the Wukong. So Varus is up and available.
As is Cassante, as is Gragas. Now, B1 Gragas I'm not expecting, but the Cassante wouldn't surprise me. It's a flex pick. We know how good Gen.G is at utilizing it. And that does mean that T1, I would love it if they actually prioritize picking the way. We know how good Faker is at Gragas, something that he pulled out, and he's still the mid laner that I think looked the best on it.
What about the classic T1, just Jace Gragas? Where are these champions going? We don't know. But no, it's going to be bottom lane focus.
The problem with that is it splits your 80 carry pool on red side. You know, if you grab both of those picks, then your 80 carry is going to be supportless. And Ahri will come through for Faker for the first time here, prioritizing it very highly. This definitely feels like it's going to be Chovy playing the Cassante mid, as this has been an answer to the Ahri so much here in our playoffs.
What I do love is that T1 is almost never going to run into Lissandra here, because if Gen.G pick it, you give away who's going where, right? Like right from the get-go, you will be aware of where this Cassante is going, taking away a lot of power as Pays.
All right, he's like, oh, Jinx is the best right now, as Gumayusi, of course, smacked him in the previous game. Jinx of Belios. The more we go forward, the further we dip back in time, gentlemen.
And this becomes very complex to play out now as T1. The classic Thresh pick that we expected to see the last time we were seeing this Ahri coming through could be locked in here for T1. You have the Aphelios Thresh, you have the ability for the Ahri to make big plays, but they're going to go back to Comfort as well. Lee Sin into Maokai can be quite strong in the early game, but later on, your agency drops massively because Maokai could just root you and prevent you from playing the game. You've got to go through a big front line here. And now the Thresh pick, highly contested between both of these teams. So incredibly strong for both of these 80 carries. The question now becomes, what's going to be the answer here? Because Malphite also, stock is going up big time in this draft.
Yeah, I was about to say, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a Kench and a fresh ban away to ensure that Pays doesn't have the safety that Guma had in the previous game. As good as Jinx is, the reason why it worked was because of all the peel available. Now, still, very beefy front line here. But for T1, might even be saving that counter pick here for carry out on R5.
There's the Malphite ban I was alluding to, too, taking that away. Because you know you're going to lose those protections for the Jinx, but you can at least eliminate some of the threats, because Lee Sin Ahri is already so much damage and so much pick. And you have a Cassante to peel, you have a Maokai who could peel somewhat decently here, but you just want to make sure that this Jinx is your win condition once again. And the Cassante still feels very likely to be a mid pick here, but as you mentioned, you just don't know. With what Gen.G has set up in this draft, they've kept it hidden.
Well, Blitz is going to be banned because T1, they want the Thresh. I was half expecting a Gragas to be banned away here to prevent Doran from being able to go back on that. We think almost guaranteed. Like, I know, Doran absolutely phenomenal. On the Cassante, Chovy loves playing melees, man. He'd love to pick that one up into this mid lane. And Thresh is going to be the ban. So T1, what are you pairing with the Aphelios? And there is the Braum from Carrier. We've seen this in clutch moments many times. You can block so much that Gen.G is going to be throwing at you. Of course, the Nature's Grasp being a big one, and Delight thinking that it might be his time to go back to an old favorite. You don't care about doors if you can just slide on underneath.
And one thing that is to be noted is that Braum Blind does mean that you can go for Lulu and not really be punished. Does mean that Delight is often engaged support, which really has been a big success for Gen.G. And the T1 composition, barring an Ornn or a Sign pickup, is really going to be lacking in hard engage. Pick is amazing. Counter engage great as well as Chovy.
All right, Tristana is going to be the choice. That confirms Cassante for the top lane. See what Zeus has prepared for us. So many things left available.
It's looking like it's just going to be a tank pick here to try to front to back this. And the Ornn, long range engage, some assurance policies for the late game in terms of those ornaments, the extra damage here. Great for early objective control. Gen.G definitely looking weaker in that regard, especially when we consider Maokai isn't going to be as high impact as the Lee Sin in the early game. And while this Tristana pick is going to be designed to get Prio, push this mid lane and give more agency to Peanut, he's often going to have to hover this mid lane because Ahri is a champion that can shut down Tristana with a well-placed charm. If Owner is there, the damage is absolutely there for T1 to turn this lane on its head. And for Gen.G, when you look at the engage opportunities here, you have long-range engage of Maokai, you have the follow-up, but the Kasante's agency in this trap, sure, you have a Lulu, you have Wild Growth, but you're running into so many blocking tools here as Gen.G, and I think T1 have the much better front-to-back team comp if they can survive the early game. So much of that pressure is on Peanut to actually get them through it.
Rage advantage, though, is big. We've seen it in the last few series, and that one is firmly in favor of Gen.G. And I want to highlight, if either of these AD carries gets fed, you're in deep trouble because they outrange you, and they're great tank shredders. I think with these type of comps, particularly because Peanut has been playing tank Maokai, you can run into trouble because Sign can itemize armor. But if Jinx or Tristana gets ahead, and they have a Lulu, they're not going to care about him stacking armor.
They will not at all, and of course, early game, you're going to have to take care of your plates. Tristana loves to destroy them. If Jinx gets any free time in that lane, that minigun will tear them apart. T1, if this early game is strong though, it's not going to be as much power for Gen.G to try and answer back. And once again, they have Owner's Lee Sin. They have Ahri in the mid lane, the most agency Faker has had this entire series, and we'll see whether they can get behind the GOAT and bring us to Silver Scrapes. Oh, T1 backs against the wall, but the fans, every single T1 fan here in the stadium, top of their lungs with these fan chants. Fantastic to see all of the support. And I think, honestly, some of the Gen.G fans probably cheering as well. They're like, this series has been so good, just give us some more games. Because this has been absolutely incredible thus far. A reverse sweep for T1 in their first grand final since the one that they lost against DRX at the World Championship. Now that would be poetic. They have to get through Gen.G in this game first, and against this adorable little firefighter here as well in the mid lane. Chovy picking the best skin for Tristana, and also picking the Tristana in general, which is a aggressive choice, one could say.
And it's not, despite Chovy's very eclectic champion pool and how he's often a pioneer of new meta picks, it was Bulldog who played the pick first in the Kassadin meta early on this season. Chovy's only played it once, so even though it's been very popular recently, not only in the LCK but in other regions, it's not a pick you associate with Chovy and lane dominance. Faker on the Ahri, however, feels like comfort, and as was mentioned, it's the first time Faker has a ton of agency here in this draft. He's been mostly utility this entire time. I was calling for something like an Ahri, like a LeBlanc, and in this fourth game, we're going to see it.
Was also the decisiveness of T1 that was one of the big reasons why they won the previous game. Every time Gen.G made a mistake, they didn't just try and punish them, they forced them to respond and then would go for another trade and another and another, and Gen.G was clearly caught off guard, playing very differently. I do think though that, as you point out, this Tristana, when it comes to lane dominance, can be very obnoxious to play into. And with Prio in mid, we have seen that Gen.G has been able to enable the rest of the map very, very well. Most notably because if they can keep early track of Owner, the T1 impact is definitely going to be a little bit more rough, as Zeus is signing it up here in the top lane.
Yep. Not really something we're going to need to pay too much attention to, but this is interesting here on the bottom side. The range advantage for Pays and Delight paying off, as I believe they missed that cannon. We tried to pan away from it as soon as possible, but still, Gen.G being able to shove in all of these waves have already got out to a bit of a gold advantage.
So there will be a timing here where Faker has level 6, and Peanut does not, and he will have an opportunity at that moment to try to make a play. Could have gone for level 3 to get some pressure removed here, but Owner's just going to leave him out to dry and look for a topside punish instead here on that push from Doran. Lane prio here in all 3 lanes from T1, so Owner is going to have to make the tough call, and topside is the angle he's looking for here. Maybe he can relieve some of that pressure, but we're still a ways away from Faker having more agency here. Charm hits?
Yeah, really nice charm there from Faker to try and offer some damage back. Not a whole lot of damage at this point in the game, but good to see that his eye is definitely in. Peanut here on this bottom side. Clear up these little rocks as he moves towards his bottom lane. Vision in place here for T1, so they shouldn't be under too much threat.
And I actually think it's a fun discussion to have about the late game, because looking at the Gen.G composition, I actually think if the early game doesn't get snowballed by T1, like the power of 2 hyper-scaling carries with double frontline and a Lulu is something that I very highly value, particularly because it's really come down to team fights in every single game just now. And I'm wondering how T1 can find a way around the fact that their hard engage is somewhat limited. Their pick potential is amazing, right? And particularly early on, like skirmishing with Braum, Ahri, and Lee can be a really big way to try and accelerate the game, but after how the previous few games played out, gonna be wondering to see whether T1 is actually going to find those aggressive angles.
Yeah, another thing as well is the fact that it's Gumayusi back on his Aphelios. Of course, like, we were talking about this for so long, about how incredibly good he is at this champion. And once again, huge comfort the first time that he's played it in this series. Of course, Pei's playing it earlier on. So Gumayusi going to see whether he can show the young man a thing or two about how to pilot this champ. We'll see whether that is going to be the case, as Doran and Zeus just battling it out. Zeus looking for the solo bolo, and he gets it! No flashes required!
No flash from either player, and you can see Doran's hands off the keyboard there. Definitely feeling a little bit sheepish about this one, and I mentioned the Oran's agency on first Rift Herald fight, some of those early skirmishes. The Scion's still going to be very useful here, but if you get a kill like this, you start stacking that armor early, oppositely of how we talked about how it could be a problem and your armor isn't going to be effective if Gen.G fall ahead or find themselves ahead and T1 fall behind. With the Scion actually getting an advantage like this on the top side of the map, the opposite could be true where that armor stacking starts early and those skirmishes get even stronger, even without something like the Ornhorn ultimate to set them up.
And I don't know, gentlemen, I am getting flashbacks from yesterday. Game number 1, getting solo killed by a Scion, starting things off a bit rough here for the top laner of Gen.G. And we're going to see it once again from the Scion perspective here. Zeus just cleaning him up. It just looked so comfortable.
Just dodging every Q. So well played. If those connect, Doran wins the exchange, but none of them do. Not the way he needs them to. And T1 here on the bottom side, despite early prio here, going to take the first rake. And this is the timing I'm talking about with Ahri hitting level 6, and the threat of the Lee Sin is there. Chovy has to play more defensively now. He's going to back, teleports back in. Owner doesn't actually set anything up for Faker here, but he's got the Ignite set. And he could have looked for something there. They respect it, but it means they're going to lose control of the Drake. And now suddenly, we went from 3-lane prio to none.
And important here is that the Hextech Drake, already taken by T1, very strong individual Drake on this current patch, is of course on the chopping block for the future one, so meaning T1 get a couple more percentage stats than it would otherwise get. And Gen.G, with this call on Chovy, also clearly looking to say, hey, we're not looking to fight and contest early. We're not looking to contest before we finish our call, before we get our one-item spikes. But against T1, that is risky, and as you were pointing out, Wolf, if this Scion gets a kill or two and starts to snowball, and Gen.G can't contest anything in the mid-game, they're not going to be able to teamfight at all.
Yeah, and buying a call here as Tristana, as now they both have level 6, Chovy needs to be so respectful.
Yeah, there's a lot of calls in this game, actually, as Faker is just going to charm forward. There it is after the flash. The kick comes in, but he had the Q well and truly prepared, and that's Owner's Lee Sin, ladies and gentlemen.
You only get one Buster shot. You only get one. He's going to be able to get the follow Q through, and Chovy goes down, and buying the call alone is already basically saying, I've lost my ability to actually snowball this lane. I'm just looking for money for free elsewhere by the item coming through, not from getting kills, not from getting plates. Now he's killed here with a gank from Owner, and this is disastrous for the early game of Gen.G.
Really big there as well is that Chovy invests his flash. So that means that the follow-up play is still going to be there here for Faker. A flash and charm now going to be a lot harder to deal with, as this play actually starts off with Chovy being the aggressor here, Faker being completely fine, and then here as soon as he comes in, right, like Chovy knows that this play is coming up. Tries to go for the flash early, expecting, but Faker holds, and the follow-up here is amazing. This is why we see this Lee Ari combo in T1 executed beautifully.
Owner's Lee Sin is an absolute joy to watch, and there is a lot on his shoulders this game, because you mentioned the late game is going to be a difficult thing for T1 to navigate. Not if they're fed out of their minds, guys. That'd be absolutely fine. Nature's Grasp, though, going to come forward here as T1 are going to be snared. They stand behind the door, though. Carrier standing stalwart. Still, Doran trying to get stuffed on, but he gets roared at, and it is massive here for T1. Gen.G have to about face, get the heck out of there. Now, yes, they get the Herald, but at what cost?
You don't have your Jinx with you, and I think this composition really needs that additional damage if you're going to actually fight this, because T1 have such great CC, and the T1 crowd is erupting in chants here because they know that they've got such a nice advantage in this game, and if something doesn't change very soon here, T1 is bringing us to 5, and I know we're talking about the sub 10 minutes, but the amount of control they have in this game, the money they've picked up here is just immaculate. And look at this fight. You don't actually have the health bar here on Doran because he's tanking this. He survives, but look at the follow-up. There's none. Jinx Rocket is your follow-up damage, and the Tristana alone this early in the game is great if she gets resets, but not when you're fighting a losing battle trying to hold on to the Herald.
And it's Faker again landing a charm on top of Chovy, right? And that's what actually starts it off. That means that there's no damage available. If Tristana can start resetting, you saw the health bars, they were actually relatively low. With the Lulu there, could have been an opportunity, but instead, they shut him down very early on as, set play here from Gen.G.
Yeah, everyone rotating down, trying to make sure that they can get some money onto Pays. Nature's Rough to come forward. That is the guarantee on the charge. Can they find more, though? It's Carrier going down relatively low, but he's just going to stand beside his teammates. He should be fine. Faker misses that charm onto Chovy. Could have been devastating. In the end, a few plates go over to Gen.G. T1 unable to find any picks.
Yeah, Doran on the top side of the map was just proxying minions between the turrets, and you know it's going to give you a tiny edge here, but nothing too significant. At the end of the day, at least Pays is picking up money here, and his call is about to complete. This is a really huge win for Pays here. Picks it up right before the back timing. That's massive. You often leave just one, and you can't get the item you're looking for.
Well, Doran looking for some Qs on to Zeus, who seems immune. He just, like, walks past him. And you can see Doran's given up. He's like, nah, I'm, I guess...
Sunfire.
I will aim for the minion wave. Sunfire Cape is the most powerful damage item in the game, by the way,
Zeus has
everyone.
ult and flash. Doran has to be so respectful here.
See whether he can actually get out of the way as he clears out the minions. And Zeus just has full control of everything in this top lane.
And it's what we're saying as well, like another kill in that skirmish went over to Zeus, and into this type of setup from Gen.G specifically, that's huge because you can't really ignore this sign. You need to work your way through the front line if you really want to be able to use your range advantage. Chovy and Pays in many fights are going to be try and looking for resets, right? Get a kill for Pays, get a kill for Chovy. But if you're hitting a Cyan that's very accelerated, already sitting on Sunfire, probably going to go Steel Caps next, and what's stopping Zeus from going a Frozen Heart down the line as well, right? He's going to become nigh unkillable because of how accelerated he is, and already T1 in this crucial game number 4 looking really, really good. And if you get a Mountain Drake on top of that as well...
Yeah, my concern with this Tristana pick was going to be always if they could actually accelerate with it, because into Ahri, it's not a matchup that Tristana just default wins. It's not a Kassadin matchup. You're not just playing into a weak side control mage where you're just like, all right, well, I'm going to push through. I'm going to get plates no matter what. You need help from your jungler. And Owner playing with the best next to Viego, arguably, in this meta. Setup jungler for Ahri means the agency just isn't there for Peanut. He doesn't show up defensively. And now Chovy is down 0-2. The Tristana pick is completely worthless. The top side of the map is completely in shambles here for Doran as well, as mentioned. And the win conditions are so thin, so narrow here now without magic damage, because a Jinx can be your carry. It's not in this situation, not when you're this far behind, unless T1 really make critical mistakes. When you add in the fact that right now it's already a 2,000 gold lead across the board, a 2 Drake lead, where's the angle here?
It's hard to find. I mean, I guess you're hanging on to the fact that it's an Ocean Soul. It's not the most pivotal soul in the world. Like, if this was Infernal, I'd be calling it. Because if T1 stacks up those, it's almost just GG by itself. Maybe not necessarily the case, and if Chovy gets to level 18 and has 3 items, like Tristana just does stuff, right?
Man,
Draw a beat
punish.
is pretty crazy as Doran looking for an opportunity, but he just can't hit this Scion with a Q. It's impossible, apparently. He's the most nimble Scion in the universe.
Chovy not going to lose too much for this, just leaving lane for a moment. We'll still be able to catch this wave, but it's going to get chunked.
Yeah, Everfrost is good here from Faker. Chovy remains underneath this turret. You can feel the momentum shift, the tempo shift in this game and in the series. Gen.G need to find a way in.
And the one Hail Mary here for Gen.G, and the reason why I think that they're holding on, all eggs are just in the pace basket now, right? He is still in a great spot, has his Kraken Slayer, finished his call, was able to pick up a ton of Blade Gold as well, even though some of it was shared with Peanut. And if they can get him to free items, I think there is an angle. But the problem is that ideally, to really abuse your range, you'd want to go for Rapid Fire second, and then go for LDR, but that means that you're lacking that crucial IE spike. But if you go IE and LDR, then you're going to have to be a lot more surefire about your positioning, because the extra, or the lack of extra range is really going to make a difference. And with this, basically confirmation that it will be Rapid Fire. So even though the free spike with what I assume will be LBR will still be good, it's not quite going to have the same punch. So it means that Gen.G really needs to out-teamfight T1. So as long as T1, which what they've been doing expertly right now, is early to objectives, not a lot of angles for Gen.G.
And it looks like Chovy here, he does have Unleashed Teleport, wants to try to get this turret and then maybe come over and help out with the Rift Herald, but T1 just have so much control right now, and Faker's going to even be able to push him away. I think he's not going to get the turret. They're not going to be able to contest this Rift Herald. And you need to get this money into the Tristana's pocket because she's so far behind, but she's not ready to fight this, and Chovy could just deny a teleport if he tries to come over, or rather Faker could deny his teleport, that is to say. Faker's actually just rotating up.
Yeah, just going to walk his way in there, and Gen.G probably going to give it up. I don't think Shirley's worth losing the game over, to be perfectly honest.
Faker.
Super Mega Death Rocket just to see as Everfrost is going to come down, slows up Delight, gets the cleanse out, gets the flash out. As Zeus, Train's going to come on through, Flame Chompers do some work, but Zeus just does not care about taking damage at this point in time, because he just doesn't take very much of it. Shirley's going to come down and break open this turret.
He got it!
Oh, okay, first turret blood does go over to Chovy, so there is at least that. But Gen.G, they take the more important turret on the map. And Gen.G now, with 4 members here in this mid lane, look to try and stave off the pressure. Flame Chompers going down, Doran trying to get out of there, does so with the W quite nicely. As Shirley eventually goes down, but T1 is still here, they have another minion wave. Moonlight Vigil comes in just for the poke damage. And now Chovy is out of there. So, they get a fair bit of damage on this inner turret, but otherwise, just backing away.
I mean, Chovy gets the first turret, but again, how much does it really matter here if you're losing all of your map control? And it was optimistic for Peanut to hope for the ultimate here follow-up to kill this Scion. The positioning is too good. No one is really caught by the ultimate but Zeus, and he just doesn't take damage. He's got steel caps, he's got a Sunfire, he just doesn't care. He's level 12 sitting pretty at the front line, and there just isn't any way to kill this Scion. So T1, if they're just half a second faster, they'll also get first brick. But the lead just compiles, and grabbing Kraken Slayer now at 16 minutes on your Tristana is not the spike you were looking for. You were hoping for some explosive fights early. That just didn't happen.
And what's important here is that T1 rather also keeps snowballing, right? As mentioned, I think there's item breakpoints where Chovy and Pace can start taking over the game, but by taking mid lane turret, you make it so much harder to try and keep any semblance of control. And denying turrets like this to Chovy, very, very big, making sure that he can't farm his way into side lanes back into this game. And even though Ocean Soul isn't the highest value, if you're running a composition with Scion and he can just take any beating that you throw at him, you're still going to be very happy.
Absolutely.
Now T1 setting up for this Soul Point fight. Owner landing a Q here, a lot of extra brushes with the gorgeous Ocean Rift that we have on display here. Gen.G don't really like the look of it too much because it is dark and it is scary. As Faker getting a charm over, doesn't land Orb of Deception there as the Kitty Cat slows down the Fox.
They want to contest this Ocean Soul Point here. They even commit the teleport here for Chovy, but the positioning is so rough right now.
Oh, Prio.
Yep, Zeus, he can get there at a moment's notice as well. He can just turn on the train as Gen.G. They do get them out of the way. Zap lands onto Gumayusi. That's actually decent. As Paze and Chovy, both 80 carries, trying to get some autos in where they can. Peanut in position as well. As Orb of Deception goes down, Doran does manage to get out of there with his unstoppable as Faker just dives on forward, finds the Everfrost as Buster Shot comes in, but immediately Doran presses the button. Faker gonna be taken down. Moonlight Vigil does a lot of damage though, and they have to be careful. Carrier with the disengages, Owner possibly caught out. Chovy diving forward, the train's gonna come in, he wants to save his jungler, and I think he's gonna do so. Zeus helps out, he'll grab the kill as well as it's an aggressive GEN.G coming on forward, finds a snare. Zeus, is he unkillable or is he not? He does go down, and now Paze is excited. Owner finds it. Absolutely massive in this fight as the Zombie Scion is getting involved. He will fall down, and Carrier and Owner will fall as well. Gumayusi last man standing, and Gen.G win the fight.
Last man standing here, and they are going to be able to take this Drake. A lot of heroics here on the side of T1, and Owner looking to turn this one around and actually win the fight, essentially single-handedly. But we have to remember how the fight started, which was by Faker getting caught. He went in to try to look for the pick, but they were so ready. Guma?
They are not going to be able to do it. Chovy going to be able to land that auto, gets the explosive charge, and that secures the Dragon. Peanut had just left. He's like, he's not interested.
Watch the setup here for Gen.G when Faker decides to go in. They have all the angles covered here, and he's just instantly locked down. Doran pulls him into the middle. Its stopwatch timing is amazing, and Peanut's ult is expended, but the fight is essentially won at this moment. Now T1, with some amazing heroic plays from Owner and Guma surviving here, does turn this around a little bit, but ultimately you are going to lose out to this Tristana with resets.
Crucially there, right? Doran actually gets Faker as he dashes over the wall, interrupts him, gets him before that happens. Really good self from the light. And then this is the point where T1 might have crucially overstepped, and if this play from Owner doesn't happen, it's an actual disaster, right? And even with that, it's so close here, but Chovy actually able to stay alive here throughout it all. Doran tanking up so much damage, and with Lulu, the extra survivability makes such a big difference. And now all of a sudden, Chovy is fed.
He is. Now Paze getting some damage onto Carrier. Good door placement. Make sure that he doesn't take too much of it. Is this inner turret under fire? Faker moving on in, but he's going to go back because this inner turret has been taken out, and they need to defend as Chovy's getting to work on this one. Teleport to come in as well, just to make sure as Charm connects. Doran not too worried about it, but does still take a fair bit of damage there. Frozen Fists actually built up for both of our top laners.
Yeah, and considering, you know, how much of this game is about the AD carries and that armor is so required, I do like the choice. Additional slow is going to be helpful too, but looking at the game state right now, I mean, T1 just lost a ton of momentum from a fight they forced off of a Faker pick attempt, and those are going to have to be cleaner. He has the Zonias now, so he has a little bit more agency once again. You know, stopwatch broken, now he's got a Zonias, so he could try for these again, but Gen.G just seems so well prepared to deal with it. And I think that you don't have to force these types of fights. You can just front to back with your Scion that's fed. Bit of an error from T1, and not to say that the game has swiftly gone back to Gen.G, but a lot of wind out of your sails now.
Well, Peanut fighting for vision control as they move up towards this Baron pit. You know, T1, it's 21 minutes. You know, they want to be going towards this Baron. Decent guns for Gumayusi as well.
It's been up for a minute and a half.
I know.
Can you get to it, please?
They are way too late. As Owner is going to look for Chovy. Chovy just gets over the wall, though. Explosive charge. Owner's going to move out of the way. It does actually a fair bit of damage at this point in time if he lands it onto a squishy. Not actually very many squishies in the area, but still. You want to protect them.
Yeah, a bit of a wedge through the jungle here for T1 that both allows the topside push for Faker and Guma to continue pushing mid and safely farm. Now they have this Baron prio. They can use this as a back tool because they don't want to start this up right now, but they can force Gen.G to come over here, react, try to get some vision. This allows them to freely back. Those turrets are all removed off the map now. T1's picked up 4 of them. And it's still a game that Gen.G could take, but it is going to take a lot of time and a lot of farming.
Also see Pace going for, instead of rapid fire, actually going like Guma previously for the Runan, so makes it a lot easier to actually get those resets, start getting excited. And you're probably going to be hitting multiple front lines with Zeus and Carrier the way the team fights are expected to go. And yeah, I do agree. I think T1 is still in a great position here, provided that they can get an early Baron, right? Force Gen.G to go for an aggressive play. Now Gumayusi sitting on his IE spike, 2 items for Faker, 2 items for Zeus here as well. You're incredibly strong now. Doran
Nice little charm onto Doran there, but he's pretty tanky at this point on his Cassante.
I mean, the damage for Baron here with this Tristana is also very high for Gen.G, and you got the Everfrost out of Faker, and now Bearing Vision here, T1 have to respond very quickly. Owner isn't here, and it's just a dance we're playing right now where neither team really wants to try to turn on Baron, but the threat that they could rush it down means that the enemy team has to then group up and respond. You get a back timing. Baron is just a tool for these teams to actually go back and buy items right now. But if you mess up just once, and you don't have vision, this could happen where you just start it up. The Owner will clear this last ward.
There are so many wards in this river for T1, and they are expanding their reach outward over and over again. You see that ward goes down, and now it's going to be a lot more distance that needs to be traveled to Gen.G for Gen.G to get there. And it means every time that mid wave is pushed up, the darkness just invades the territory of Gen.G. As now Doran diving forward, does find Zeus, but not exactly a priority target. One could say knock up onto Pays. He gets ulted by Guma as well, but is going to be able to walk it out. Has Delight there also, but Pays needs to be a little bit careful. Last Whisper completed for the Jinx. He's very important in this fight. True. Oh, Charm is dodged by the buffer of the rocket jump. Oh, good knock up there onto Pays as Everfrost is immediately cleanse flashed. And now Faker looking for more. He finds another one. This time onto Delight into the backline. He does wild growth himself, and they manage to get the kill.
Reset for Chovy.
Jinx is excited. The resets for Chovy and resets for everyone. The Jinx is absolutely massive. Peanut may have gone too far forward, but T1's health bars are evaporating. It's a triple kill for Pays, and Gen.G are moving towards Baron.
It's a Baron angle here, and there's just no way that T1 can contest it. There's just way too much damage here for Gen.G, so this is just going to go down instantly. And what looked like a potential turn there from Faker is once again punished. And the angle of Peanut's ultimate was amazing there because it allowed Gen.G to kite back and then punish Faker's aggression. They will be able to trade this for soul points, so consolation prize here for T1. But Gen.G now in control of this game. As watch this ult from Peanut here, the angle he takes when Faker decides to go forward, it's so beautifully done. The buffer comes through. And I just have to say, Faker's always looking for these angles, but Peanut is punishing. And now you can kite back, and Faker decides to go in regardless and is punished promptly.
And what's really, really big here is that even though Pays looks like he's misplaying here as he gets caught by the edge there of that Cyan, the cleanse flash is immaculate. And here it's not Pays getting charmed.
Delight actually blocking it for Pays. What it looked like.
Yep.
And just look at him calling to follow for the chase here. So hyped. Yeah. The guy is just not, he's not playing like a rookie. He looks like a veteran. We've been saying
He doesn't even look like he's in a final.
Yeah.
Oh man, Pays very impressive as Chovy going to buffer the charm once again. Not over yet by any means, but now with a Baron buff and with these two extraordinarily high range carries, it's so difficult. Well, Dom's now completed for Pays as well as Faker just dashes forward. They get another Nature's Grasp, but he doesn't have another Zhonya's, and it's a kill for Pays. Chovy now takes that as his moment to dive forward. Zeus just trying to retreat. Owner wasn't in position to go for any sort of engagement, and without Faker, they can do nothing to stop the onslaught on their structures.
I mean, a minute 20 on this Baron. I mean, T1 are really going to struggle to defend without Faker.
They're going to keep going.
I think they could try to push to end this. I mean,
they have
enough
so
Baron.
much range on both of these 80 carries. They are not going to bite off more than they can chew. And I guess Gen.G have some I's to dot and some T's to cross.
I mean, you consider the items that are picked up here, though, and all the money that's sitting on Chovy. I mean, they are about to explode this game, and I think that you could try to push an end here, but you've already gotten the mid inhibitor, which is going to guarantee you prio on subsequent objectives. And the way in which they set this up with a wraparound from Peanut, Faker is once again deciding to go in, realizes his mistake very early on, mid-dash, but it's too late.
Yeah, it's almost like he pressed the Zhonya's a little bit fast there, I guess, but we'll never know. As T1 gonna get teleported on from inside their own base.
That's not fair.
Okay, Doran, Chovy in position on the flank. He doesn't exactly have any CC to offer, and he's now going to get stunned up into the waiting arms of Zeus, but the flash is going to come through. There is the buster shot, and somehow Zeus not unstoppable while that happens. As now Doran caught out of position. He's got a lot of health, and he's tanking for a long time. And Moonlight Vigil is gigantic. And now Faker finds the cleanse into the backline. Immediate cleanse there onto Pays. But it's a double kill for Oner. Chovy is dead, and Gen.G, they have overstepped.
Now, Nexus turrets are under fire here, so eventually you do have to go back here as T1. You want to chase down and get these kills. Oner's hiding.
Oh, Oner.
TP.
Yep, there's the teleport. He lands the Q as well as now Pays by himself. And Oner looking to take it. He does secure the kill, but he goes down in response. T1 back in control of the Rift, and I don't care what happens in this game. This series has been incredible.
It's been our best series in a finals we've had in a very long time, especially when you consider Spring. As Gen.G really overextending here, overplaying their hand. You could have just walked away from this and said, we got mid-prio, we're setting up for the next objective. We have such a nice lead now, but you've given T1 an avenue back into the game.
And this is the one angle you can't really deal with, which is Keria blocking everything in a choke point. And Guma hits an absolutely impeccable ultimate, continues being the sturdy backbone of T1, and then Oner able to get the Q here.
Yeah, beautiful Q from Oner. Pays fights it back, has the shield coming through from Delight, and is able to trade back a kill. So small consolation prize for him, but at the end of the day, we're sitting on stopwatches here now for Gen.G, and T1 get these kills, stay alive in this game, pick up a lot of money, but they're not able to turn this into a Baron. It's just expired. They're not able to turn it into a Drake. It spawns here in a minute.
Yeah.
So there's advantage still to Gen.G in a lot of ways here, but T1 picking up so much needed gold.
Yeah, Soul Point is a big deal that T1 could be getting towards, but it comes back to what you were talking about, Chronicler, at the beginning of the game, and that is the fact that there are two hyper carries that outrange Gumayusi. And as this game goes on, we're going to need to see so many more of these heroics from both Keria getting into position to get that CC down perfectly, and Oner finding kicks into the backline onto either of these key carries as Pays just walking circles around them right now. Oner taking a lot of damage. Gen.G standing their ground for now. It is so tense here on the Rift as Nature's Grasp used aggressively. Doran diving forward, trying to find the Braum Carrier. Going to go down, and that is just front to back. Massive damage. Oner down to his GA, and it's a lot of damage here for Gumayusi, but he cannot go back in again. And Oner's going to be taken out. It's Pays who locks down that one. And yes, he is getting excited. The charm not going to connect onto him either. His range just that little bit too high as the pesky turret in the way. And it looks like they're going to deny Soul Point before pressing further forward.
This is the type of flank play that you're set up as T1 to try to look for with the angle of the Braum, being able to take everything, and you have the turn potential with this composition, but if you can't make it happen before the first kill comes through, Pays just will pop off, Chovy will pop off.
And now, this might be the kills that get Pays' IE, which is going to make the problem even worse. And this is what I think the core issue for T1 is that if they are the ones getting engaged on, if they're not the ones setting up reactive plays, they're going to struggle because the front to back for Gen.G is so good. But look at, how do you hard engage if you're T1? It's a catch or nothing.
Oner's so far away.
We'll see whether we can get into this Baron pit as T1. Nature's Grasp just going to zone. And now the Scion going to be caught. The Q not going to be enough. Flame Chomper's going to come in. Isaiah's going to be interrupted. He cannot ult out of this one. An explosive charge is going to do it. Pays immediately diving forward. Oner, can he find it as he does try to look for the kick flash, but Pays has a stopwatch, of course he does. And now Oner, he's going to get a kick, but it's not the one he was looking for. Peanut going aggressive, Chovy diving in, but he gets the reset. Pays. And now T1 trying to back away, but Pays is at full health, and they have Baron.
It's so difficult to defend your base now.
I don't know if they can. They can't even get back.
Now Faker's struggling to recall here. At least the inhibitor as Respawn's going to buy a few more seconds.
Doran STP, but it's 30 seconds.
Well, Faker has Flash and he is alive as Chovy and Pays draw a bead. Now level 16 for Chovy. You see how much damage he is doing. Carrier trying to put that door up in front of the Nexus. But Gen.G, I think the upset may happen. The charm is going to connect, but it's onto Delight. So much damage for Gumayusi. He's found it. He found the moment. Oh my god, he does explode in the end, so it's not going to be T1 taking the game back, but it's not going to end here. My voice might die, but the Nexus will survive.
It looks like Doran's just going to decide to TP top here and grab some inner gold here and start opening up the map further with no Nexus turrets open. Every single turret you take is going to be a backdoor win condition. GA is picked up now for Pays. As any single kill, any single pick is just subsequent doom for T1. And now that Pays and Chovy are so fed in this game, even this stacked armor Scion is not going to be enough. Owner with the heroics here, and then Chovy looked like he might have overextended, but he gets the reset to get out. It's what happens in the base that's more interesting.
Oh man, Owner plays it so well, but Pays with just one stopwatch that he now cannot have. Just thwarted it.
Guma in this fight with Faker, it's a miracle they survive.
Yeah, the fact that they're able to hold on here, it starts off with the Charm Flash, but that's bait. It's Guma flashing in point blank with Infernum. All that damage is more than enough, but is this enough?
He's got 4 items. I mean, if he's in range to hit him, he will kill everyone. But with the composition Gen.G has, it should be so difficult for him to get there.
Luckily for T1, because they went for the all-in here in mid and haven't been able to take out either inhibitor, it's really only the mid wave they have to deal with here. And Gen.G now, with no objective up, are going to have to kind of awkwardly split here to try to take more of the map away. The GA did complete after that last fight here for Pays, so he has 2 lives in this. And Gen.G just need to pick a lane and siege it. Eventually they will wear through T1's base. Zhonya's coming back up for Faker, and I think he's going to be the one who has to make a heroic play here to save this game and get Guma the ability to team fight. If you can get a pick, you can win that 5v4 with this fed Scion. With 3 items, it's not the most impossible tank to kill, but if you can get one pick onto one of these carries, one carry isn't going to rip through that armor as easily.
Yeah. Or if, like, Faker and Owner take 1 carry each and kill each one of them, there'll be a possibility here as well. But you can see we're clutching at straws a little bit as Gen.G bear down on the Nexus.
It's the range
of T1. You're exactly right. There's also this, the zoning, as in front is the Scion. He's going to stand there, but look at this turret. It just evaporates. A massive Q from Doran, and it is the man that played so well in games 1 and 2 that's coming back here in game 3 to dominate T1. Owner down to his GA once again. Pays, he's down very, very low, but now the Nexus will be in the sights of Gen.G. They couldn't take them down at all throughout the rest of it, and now on the blood of T1,